evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Cedar Falls Board of Education with a reminder that the actions taken at this table will focus on our students and their achievement. With that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's
Mike's not on.
Oh, sorry, my mic was off. It's been moved by Sasha, seconded by
Second.
Jenny. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Moving on now to our annual meeting, we need to approve the depository banks and maximum deposit resolutions. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that the Cedar Falls School District Board of Education approve fiscal year 2020 depository banks and maximum deposit resolutions for the Cedar Falls Community School District as presented.
Thank you, Susie. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Sasha. Any questions or comments?
I just have one comment. This year, as you'll note, on the 2018-19, Great Western Bank had contacted us, and we've added them to the depository list. So that would be the reason they are new for the 19-20 school year.
Thank you, Danelle. Any other questions or comments?
So just for a clarification on this, these are just, we have to authorize for you to be able to put money and let them stay basically in savings accounts or CDs or whatever money market accounts at these different banks. It's authorization that you need on an annual basis from the board to be able to do that.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And then you set the maximum threshold, so they can't go over those. Obviously, we won't have those dollars in every one of the banks.
Right. Those are all just maximum levels.
Correct.
Yep. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Hearing any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on now to item B on the agenda, the appointment of the board secretary. Do I have a motion?
Yes. I move to appoint Danelle Gonerman, sorry, as school district secretary.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Unless anyone else would like to volunteer for that position, I think Danelle has it. Okay. Raise your right hand and let me talk into this mic, okay? Danelle, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of Office of School Board Secretary in the Cedar Falls Community School District, Cedar Falls, Iowa, as now and hereafter required by law?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to an appointment of the authorized school business official. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Cedar Falls Community School District Board of Education approve the appointment of Danelle Gonerman as the authorized school business official for the Cedar Falls Community School District.
Thank you, Susie. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Jenny. Any questions or comments?
Sorry, could you just enlighten us on the difference between those two positions and what kind of they entail?
Sure.
So obviously, the secretary is for the board, and we review and provide minutes and are here for support in regards to what is requirement of the state of Iowa. In regards to the school business official, that is a licensure in which the state requires each school district to have one individual in regards to the school business, and it is overseeing the financial of the district and oversees the actual finances and provides recommendations, but we are required to have one within the district of Cedar Falls Community Schools.
So when you need to, when our district needs to submit something to the Department of Education, they're going to look for that official to, that's the official designation of who they want to see that.
That is
they're
correct.
authorizing you to do that.
Yes. Yep.
And both of these are per Iowa code that we have to have designees at our annual meetings. So the board secretary and school business official typically is the same individual, because that individual is in the role of overseeing finances and then making recommendations to the board on those, as well as keeping the records. So
Great. Thank
Good
you.
questions. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on now to our regular meeting on the agenda. Moving on to item A for public comment. Why don't we start with Mr. Skane? Would you like to come to the microphone, please?
Jim Skane. The school board, you are to be congratulated for successfully securing $69.9 million in bonding authority for school construction. Now that you have it, use it wisely to benefit the people of Cedar Falls. The school bond campaign focused on the condition of the current high school building. Supporters of the bond issue repeatedly pointed out the condition of the current building, as did the material that the board distributed. Some of the problems identified were some rooms were not air conditioned, they had to go outside to get to the annex, and there was insufficient provision for handicapped students. It was contended that the cost to repair and renovate the current building in order to take care of these problems would be great. In fact, the school board's literature said that it would take 118% of the $112.5 million cost of construction of a new building to repair the current building. That comes to $132,750,000. No legitimate contractor would suggest that it would take anywhere near $132.75 million to repair the current building. Maybe $1 million or two, but not $132.75 million, and that's what the literature said. Obviously, the board did not do due diligence to check their $132.75 million repair figure. In the entire campaign, I did not hear any argument that a new building was necessary. No reason was given for claiming that it was necessary to build a new building, except that the school board had 50 acres of land already purchased and had hired Envision to design and story construction to construct the new building. I found no other reason, and I searched the material carefully. If there is another reason, I would like to know it. School board, the people have entrusted you with bonding authority of $69.9 million. Use it wisely. Use due diligence. Don't waste the people's money. Repair the current high school. Save the building bonding authority and use it
thank you,
Thank
Mike.
when you genuinely
Thank
need
you.
to use it.
Yep. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Wyckoff.
Larry Wyckoff, 4241 East Park Road. Hope you all had a good 4th of July weekend. Congratulations, like Jim said, on winning. Couple points. We didn't have all the money that it required to put out these nice membership booster club type activity things. There's 3 points I want to make. Number one, from what I've been told, the intersection at 27th and Hudson, it has a very, very bad wreck habit where people tell me that it sometimes requires 2 tow trucks to take the cars apart once they collide with each other. Now, that's not good. So I hope somebody's going to look into that in the Craig Birdie department to see what is necessary to maybe put a roundabout in there. I know that sounds odd, but maybe we need a roundabout there. The next thing is, it's going to take now 9 months to plan the school. Now, let me see. I thought we talked about this in the preliminary discussion. There was no preliminary blueprints. So now we got to wait 9 months to put the plan together. Third, it won't be until 2023 to get this $132 million behemoth put together. Please put something in the contract, have it done in 2 years, and you get an extra bonus or something. You get cookies by the PTA or somebody. I don't know. But 4 years is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Our next speaker, Mr. Ed Altoff. Good evening.
Hi, thank you. Ed Oltoff, 1310 West 7th Street, Cedar Falls. First of all, a quick point of order. It would be nice to see the timer. It's helpful for the presenter, keeps everybody above board, and everybody knows how hard it is to give a 3-minute cogent argument. So, just a point of order. Anyway, my cogent argument. I'm still concerned about transparency and fiscal responsibility. In recent past, you spent a lot of time and effort, I think, on documents like this, or many of them, full of charts and pretty shadow drawings, advocating over and over and over the passage of a ballot issue. Don't know how much this cost the school district. That was, district money. It's probably buried in the administrative number on page 9 of the annual audit. And when I read Iowa Administrative Code 135-5.41, I have a little concern. You can look that up. In the future, we're going to have some big costs here, big costs. You're starting with architectural, contract documents, bid letting. I'm familiar with this part of my job. Construction bids, your estimates, they might be good. You might be off by millions. I hope you go to the people and say, hey, we messed up here. We're going to have more money. Change orders, 10% of the construction costs. A lot of times, change orders and overruns. I've seen it. I would really like that you tell the people this is going on instead of maybe burying it in something like page 39 of your audits all the time where it talks about construction. And in 17, there's $21 million in this account that you had contracted for construction. You only paid $4 million in your budget. You're going to have some really big budget deficits when you get into this if these cost overruns are there. I'm concerned about that. You owe your transparency and fiscal responsibility to the citizens who pay your property tax, your sales tax, and your income tax. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other public comment, then we'll move on to communications. Dr. Pattee.
Yes, I only have one piece of communication, and it's one slide, really. Janelle's not able to be here tonight, so we don't have a long or a lot of communications to provide. I think the most important thing with the slides is just, it's a thank you. Thank you to our community for their support, for their trust, and certainly the movement forward as we look educationally at the new high school. It's going to be an exciting time, I think, in the history of Cedar Falls. This is going to be our the third high school building that we've had, and this was pointed out when I think we were presenting at the Western Home, and they talked about this is the third high school building for Cedar Falls in the last 100+ years. And you look back on that, we know that it's been 70 good years in this building, but it's time to move forward and move on, and we're very, very excited about that. We also want to thank and be very appreciative that we had 31% of our eligible voters come out and vote in a special election. That is a large number, very resounding number, and I think that's just a tremendous showing of how important education is across our community. Then I'd finally say I think it was a really strong comment and commitment by our community for ballot question A for $69.9 million, to have that be at 67%. That was just a very strong statement, and I think that just shows the faith people have in the school district, the school board, and certainly the individuals sitting at this table. So we want to say thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on now to the Secretary's financial report.
Okay, if we can pull up the May financial reports, please. Okay, thank you. Make sure the clicker is working here. I apologize. It appears. Yes, it is.
I will
on.
move the slides for you.
Thank you. If we can proceed to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in our general fund for the month of May, as a reminder, this is our May, we had revenues of 4.7 million. We had expenditures of 4.7 million, and with a total balance of 10.9 million for our general fund. If we can move to the next, please. For our management fund, we had revenues of 51,000. We had 0 expenditures, which is normal, and we had a total balance of a little over $1 million available in our management fund. Next slide, please. In our capital projects, as you know, this is dwindling down as we complete our projects throughout the district. We had revenues of $481, which is which is interest, obviously, and then we had expenditures of 21,000, which had a remaining balance of 250,000. Next slide, please. For our save, we had revenue of 428,000. We had expenditures of 695,000. You'll see a minimal transfer out as we continue to close out the end of the year of 43,000, which goes into our sinking fund, debt service fund, and a balance of 6,906,000. Of that, we have restricted funds of 995,000. As a reminder, this balance will continue to be lower in the sense of as we continue to work on our projects throughout the district. Next slide, please, is our PEPL, which is our revenue of 284,000. We had expenditures of 65,000, a balance of 4.8 million. Next, please. We had our debt service of revenue of 196,000. That was the transfer in from Fund 33, which is our save of 43,000. We had 0 expenditures for the month of May, which left a total balance of 4.2 million. Next slide, please. Student activity, we had revenues of 65,000, expenditures of 74,000, with a remaining balance of 527,000. Next, please. We have our trust and agency fund. We have revenues of 14,000, expenditures of 8,000, and our total balance of 270,000. And our next would be our food service, which is our revenues of 279,000. We had expenditures of 200,000 with a balance of 820,000. And our high school coffee shop, we had revenues of 3,000, expenditures of 799 with an available balance of 9,000. And finally, our River Hills, which is our flow through, is our revenues of 792,000. We had expenditures of 85,000, which is a remainder of remainder balance of 792,000. Is there any questions on the month of May?
questions regarding the financials for May? All right, if not, we'll put these on file for audit.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on now to June.
June. Okay, if we can pull up June, I'll give this a try here. Okay, so as a reminder, June is our end of our fiscal year. This is cash balances. These are not accruals, so as you will see, they are considered as cash. So revenue, we had 4.4 million. We had expenditures of 5.4. We have an available balance of 9.987 million. For management, we had revenues of 3,500. We have expenditures of 13,000, which left an available balance of a little over $1 million. In our capital projects, again, our revenue was our interest for $366. We did have expenditures for the month of June of $114,000, which has a available balance of $137,000. For our save, we had revenues of $559,000. We had expenditures of $489,000. We did not have a transfer out as we finish out the school year, or actually the fiscal year, and we had a remaining balance of $6,976,000. Again, we had restricted funds of $995,000, so we have an available balance of $5.9 million. Capital projects is revenues of $33,000. We have expenditures of $776,000, and our available balance is $4.1. For our debt service, we had revenues of $126,000. We had expenditures, as a reminder, we have 2 payments a year, December and in June, of $4.3 million, therefore leaving a total balance of $13,000 available. In student activity, we had revenues of $120,000. We had expenditures of $86,000, available balance of $561,000. Trust and agency fund, we had revenues of $15,000, expenditures of $13,000, and a total available of $273,000. Enterprise, our food service, we had revenues of $252,000, expenditures of $218,000, ending balance of $854,000. In our coffee shop, we had revenues of $582, expenditures of $4,746, with a remaining balance of $4,927. And ending on our River Hills, Fund 94, we had revenues of $221,000. We had expenditures of $955,000, with a remaining balance of $58,000, which obviously will be paid to our Central Rivers accordingly for a zero balance at the end of the year. Is there any questions for June?
Any questions for Danelle? Yes, John?
Yeah, just so the general fund is about a little over $1 million behind where we're at the end of our last fiscal year.
It is.
Do you have any insight into that difference?
Yep, the majority is the opening of the new Aldrich Elementary. We did open up a new building, which then obviously increases some of the costs associated with opening that building. So that is showing some of the items which would be referred to as books, obviously supplies, equipment, things like that, in order to get that building up and going, as well as we had increased costs of utilities and snow removal, and with the odd year that we had for our winter, so.
But all facilities costs would not come out of the general fund, right?
That is correct. The facilities would not, but the overall supplies and the needs and the commodities would come out of the general fund as needed, as well as salaries and things like that associated with that.
Okay.
And the other significant component. The other significant component in that is we're always 1 year in arrears with the dollars that come from the state. So with an increase in enrollment of 110 students times roughly $7,000 per student, those dollars don't come until the following fiscal year. So you spend all those dollars out of your current year's budget, even though you don't get those dollars in return for a year in advance.
So that in and of itself is about a $750,000 difference, is just we're playing catch up.
We are.
Okay, so.
We're always a year in arrears with that.
Yep. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then we'll put the June Secretary's financial report on file for audit. Item E on the agenda is the official notification of election results from the County Auditor's Office. Danelle.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I don't have that. I do have that information with me.
We had a PowerPoint for that, a presentation that they popped up here just in a bit, or a while ago. But this is really to kind of review and go over, as required by code, the school district official election results. So we're excited to be able to share from the June 25th election results, and certainly also here in a bit swear in a new school board member.
If we could go to the next slide, please. For the summary report, we had 6 precincts. Total registered voters, as Dr. Petit had indicated, is 31,000. We had ballots cast of 9,600, which we had voter turnout of 31%. Next slide, please. This would be the first question, obviously, for the replacement of Mr. Giddens. The seat available that we had, Dr. Alan Heisterkamp, had votes of 7,254 at 95%, and we did have a few write-in available with that as well. Question 2. If we can go to the next, please. This was the question in regards to the allowance of the indebtedness of $69.9 million. As Dr. Petit indicated, we had a 67% in favor of yes, and we had 32% as no. So, and the next question, please, the next slide, would be public measure B, which was the following question. In regards to, we had 65% and 34%. Are there any questions in regards to the official results received?
Any questions? All right, no action needed. Moving on now to item F on the agenda, the oath of the newly elected board member, and I'm going to have the pleasure of doing this. A little shorter. Dr. Heisterkamp, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of Director in the Cedar Falls Community School District, Cedar Falls, Iowa, as now and or hereafter required by law?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to item G, the approval of the change orders for Orchard Hill Elementary Phase 2.
Yes, we have Dan Channer with us this evening to talk through some of the change orders for Orchard Hill Elementary, Phase 2. There is a short little PowerPoint with some pictures regarding Orchard Hill as well, but I'll turn it over to Dan.
Okay, thank you, Andy, appreciate it. So I believe you all have a letter that Andy sent out to you earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of a quick overview, a list of items that equates to $84,934.07, primarily through, once we really got into the existing building portion of the project, we just started finding little things all the way, and they started ballooning into bigger things. No, I'll run through things real quick here. Adding a booster pump for the RO system. Simply, the city of Cedar Falls does not have the pressure that's required to push the water through this system, so that we have, and it's something, the water is used on the combi ovens in the kitchen, and so we needed to be able to push that water through. Pre-K roof structural reinforcement. The issue there was, once we took out some of the existing masonry walls, we found splices in the existing beams that we had to reinforce and resolve before we could take out shoring, etc. Revised conduit for the existing boiler room, electrical panel feeder. Again, once we got up into the building, took out ceilings, et cetera, we were able to figure out that it wouldn't fit where it was intended, where it was at, in relationship to a new beam that had to be installed to support the roof structure so that the pre-K room could be opened up completely. Art kiln exhaust, that is a function of we're moving the existing kiln. The kilns at Aldrich and North Cedar had to be additional exhaust systems put in there as well because the information that we received from the kiln supplier was incorrect. It did not give us the information on what the heat buildup really was on the unit. So we needed to add additional exhaust to reduce the heat and get rid of some false fire alarm calls. Add piping for the kitchen eye wash station. There was basically the Blackhawk County Health Department wanted us to do it differently than what it had originally been planned to be done as. Pre-K and commons floors. Again, this is in the pre-K area, a lot of existing walls in place that were coming out. And basically all of the corners of the rooms were hidden under carpet, under cabinetry. When you take the walls out, there's a differential in the elevation of the floor, and it's a lot more than you can just take care of with a floor stone by spreading it out. So they needed to be taken out. Pre-K east wall replacement. That is the east wall of the pre-K area. And again, once we got into it, took off the original or the added on principal's office, and this is the pictures of that area that you're seeing. It was determined in conjunction with our structural consultant that we needed to just take the rest of the wall down and build back new so that we have a good structural system there. What you can see here in the upper left-hand picture, you're looking from the original principal's office into the pre-K area, and you can see a wood lintel, wood framing. That was all covered up. If that hadn't been built done like that, and had been masonry, we probably had a chance to actually do what we planned to do. But you can see in the lower right-hand picture, the area highlighted in yellow on the right, that's where a new window was to go. The area to the left of that was the other side of this framed-in area that you see in the upper left-hand picture. Then you see approximately 2 feet of masonry, then a window, which has to come out, the right half be filled in, the left half becomes part of the next window, which is the next yellow area, and then there's about another 4 feet of existing masonry there. And the structural engineer just, like I said, felt a lot better about just taking it out and starting over. So, okay. The west wall of the pre-K room, furring that out for electrical boxes. Initially, the intent had been to try to run the conduit down through the existing block, but that became, they just couldn't get it down through there, so we furred it out so that we wouldn't have to expose any conduit on the walls. Add DDC controls for existing unit heaters. That was something that was requested, and what that really does is helps you get rid of the final pneumatic controls that are in the building, so we can get rid of the air compressor, which in the long run not having that compressor to maintain, et cetera, is a plus to the district. Plus have better control. Emergency lights, that was something that as we have worked our way through the 3 projects that we've been working on, any room that has an exterior exit, even though it may not be considered a real required exit, we have to put some emergency lighting there. So that's what that one is about. Insulation in the Westford walls of several of the rooms. We simply missed adding that in those walls, so that's what that's for. And then wall furring in room C123 Commons. Once we got all of the steel in place to open it up the way we wanted to make everything look finished, we needed to add some furring to make it look finished. So then Part B goes through a series of other items that are out there that we're currently talking to the contractor about. And Part C is some items that have been requested by the district. So any questions?
I think it's important to point out with these change orders, several things have happened. Number one, as you get into remodeling sections of older buildings, you never know what you're going to uncover as you take down walls or uplift carpet or those things. And we found some things at Orchard Hill that just don't meet code or safety requirements, so we have to address those. Number two, I think one of the challenges that we had, this is kind of the construction terminology, the as-built drawings of the way the building was supposed to be built. When it was built, they give you the final drawings, and some of those just weren't accurate with actual what and where things were at within the building.
And did not exist in one case.
And that's the challenge. So we had some challenges from the get-go. And I think one of this is something when we've been talking through this, and Dan pointed this out as we initially went through this project, over time, as we've remodeled portions of North Cedar and Orchard Hill at different times, we've come across different challenges at North Cedar internally that have said, we need to probably have a little bit more contingency at North Cedar. And I think we put $250,000 of contingency into the North Cedar project. Orchard
Correct.
Hill, as we've remodeled some rooms there, when we've taken down portions of walls or taken down plywood or plaster, there's not been issues there. So there was $100,000 of contingency at Orchard Hill. So a big significant difference. So this $84,000 for this really should be covered by the contingency, but we didn't have that contingency in place like we did at North Cedar, which has been the challenge. I think the other thing, when we look at the total project, this is a $12 million project at Orchard.
Correct.
So we're saying that $84,000 is about 0.007% of the overall project cost, and it's things that just couldn't be foreseen, and that's the challenge that we were faced with.
Other questions for Dan?
So Dan, you've covered the things in A, but there's still quite a long list of B and C.
Correct.
So any idea of the total amount that we're looking at to get through the essential items that were uncovered here?
I really don't want to venture a guess. I've been talking to the contractors, and they have not given me a lot of good information yet at this point. They're still working on it, and as soon as we get it, I'll get it to Andy, and we'll get it to you.
Yeah, there will be some additional change orders that we know we'll have to bring back to the board, what that cost will be. When you look at B, there are some additional structural wall bearings and some other bearings that we know we have to have replaced as we continue to remodel and dig into that addition or that building as it was built now, multiple decades ago. So there is going to be some additional cost. We don't anticipate that to be significant costs, but we anticipate that there'll be some additional costs.
And as Andy was saying, on a industry average, change orders for specifically a remodeling project, if we're under 2%, we're doing really good.
So are these things, Dan, that would have been possible to discover before we started on the project?
A lot of them were really hidden. Again, no plans, without doing some demolition. Becomes pretty difficult to figure it out. You kind of take your best guess as to what you think probably is going on there, and it is where it is.
You know, there are some things, the removal of the gigantic boulder, we're going to keep part of the boulder, and I don't know if people have seen the boulder outside of Orchard Hill. It's just gigantic, and there was not equipment to move that boulder. So that's going to be something that we have to have moved because it's so large.
Yeah, it was one boulder at one time.
And now, well, it's two. It broke in half. It was 30, it's 30 tons plus.
Right.
So pretty significant boulders. So there's some things like that that we just never anticipated occurred with this project.
So just so I'm clear, so we did have a $100,000 contingency for Orchard Hill, or and of that, this will consume 85 of the 100? Is that?
No, we've already
No, the contingency was all those, you know, additions, lighting, things like that that have gone into the building. So this is for above the 100,000 contingency. Typically for a project this size, we would have, again, like North Cedar, about 250,000 of contingency we try to plan. But as we've done remodeling in this building in the past, or different portions of it, there's not been any of these issues that have come out. But when we tore and demolished some of these areas, that's where it really came to kind of the full knowledge that there's some additional challenges structurally.
So when we're building a new building, for example, we build a new elementary, what was our contingency?
I believe it was 200 and we didn't use it all.
Yeah, I think 200,000.
And how much of that did we end up using, do you know?
I'd say about 150, 160
Yeah,
maybe.
it was in that range.
Yep.
And that obviously wasn't for, you know, things that we found because
Right.
there was nothing built. It was
People requesting additional items.
Some of them are additional light fixtures, light switches, things like that, that just add cost. But when you actually have a time to be in the three-dimensional space and people walk through, they start saying it would be nice to do this or nice to have that. And so there's some flexibility to make sure that the spaces work for our staff, our community, our administrators.
Yeah, I guess I mean,
Yeah, I understand.
all of us have remodeled an old house, and then, you know, I've been there, and then you have to figure out, you discover things when you rip things off the wall, and then I'm just thinking about a new building, and from a process standpoint, obviously, you know, we've got practice now with remodeling 2 existing buildings and building 1 new one, and then thinking ahead to a process for the high school. How do we, you know, what can we do to tighten that down so that we can be as accurate as we possibly can? I mean, there's always going to be things that not everybody's visual. Until they walk through it, they don't really understand it. But just from a process standpoint, just thinking out loud, you know, just.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what, you know, as we went through Aldrich Elementary, it's so much easier with say, a new building, because you can plan that out. You know where internal beams are, you know where some of the connections are. Obviously, when you remodel an older building, there's challenges that come about, and that's been interesting as we've walked through Orchard Hill.
Yeah. There are portions that there are so many wires and pipes all in one intersecting corridor, it's difficult to even see what's going on above it without going in and taking things apart.
Who's the general contractor on this?
Peters Construction.
Peters Construction, okay.
They've been tremendous to work with. They've really helped uncover a lot of these challenges, but then really worked with our design team, then worked with the city to make sure that we are addressing some of the challenges that are uncovered appropriately.
Here, a general question, and this is, just one of the issues, but like on the kill and exhaust, because we were given incorrect information, is there any recourse for us to, go back to a supplier and say, we have incurred additional costs because what you provided us is incorrect. I'm just curious, is there any recourse for us?
I really don't know.
We've not had an opportunity to look into that yet, but I think we need to, because again, the information that we received was not the accurate information as far as the amount of venting that needed to take place. So, and that is something that for any kind of an expense, I think it would be wise, and we can contact our attorney to figure out if that is possible or not possible. It's a good question.
Andy, can I just ask where the additional funding will come from, since it's not in a contingency? How do we cover these extra expenses?
Yeah, it comes out of a couple different buckets. Again, we're in silos with our school funding, so there'll be some dollars that'll be able to come from PEPL in our physical plant and equipment levy. There'll be some dollars that we'll have from our save account, the 1 cent penny. We know that the dollars that we did not utilize for some of the other projects because of the contingencies and below contingencies and remodeling is already virtually completed, we'll be able to use some of those dollars as well. And then there's some items in here that have been added in for additional furniture costs, and those will come out of either our, we call them the BLC dollars, our instructional levy dollars that will help offset those. So it's a variety of dollars within the district to be able to offset those. We have the funds available to do it. We knew that there was going to be some bumps as we went through the remodeling aspects. We just didn't anticipate that there would be as many, especially with this building.
We thought North Cedar was going to be the problem, and it turned out to be Orchard Hill.
Just internally as we tackled some of the structures.
Any other questions for Dan or Andy? Thank you, Dan, for being here.
Thank you.
Never an easy conversation to have. Do I have an approval for the change orders for Orchard Hill Elementary Phase 2?
I move that the Cedar Falls Community School District Board of Education approve the July 8th, 2019 change orders for Orchard Hill Elementary Phase 2 as presented with pricing, with additional change orders to be possible based on further requirements and/or needs.
Thank you, Jenny. Do I have a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded by Susie. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on now to the discussion of the legislative priorities for the 2019-2020 school year.
And this is really kind of a short discussion. It's more to let the board know that in August, we will need to set our legislative priorities. So if you will look through those, review those, within the packet of the legislative resolutions that ISAB has put out, we can select up to 4. Last year, we selected number 27, which was the obviously sunsetting and or extending of the 1 cent sales tax, the SAVE, and that's been accomplished. So that's one that we can kind of cross off the list. 28, which was the bond issues with simple majorities needed in order to have those approved. And then 29 is really the focus on expanding educational opportunities, but not doing so through voucher programs. So those were the 3 that we selected last year. It's really up to the board to decide which ones in the future to be able to focus in on. The final page in the packet with the legislative priorities just show the different resolutions that came out of the that process down at the convention, and again, it was mental health, school funding, supplemental state aid, and then the SAVE extension were the 4 that came out of that convention process. So it's really more FYI for right now, opportunity to kind of read through those and then come prepared in August at the next meeting to be able to talk through those and select which ones we think are important.
And as you look at those, if you have any questions, Sasha would be a good contact person because she serves on the, remind me the title, legislative advocacy.
Resolution committee.
Okay. So she would be a great resource if you have any questions as you're looking through those.
Yep.
Other than that, okay, moving on then, we'll come back to at the next board meeting to pick those priorities. Moving on now to item I, approval of the 2019-2020 administrative team salary and benefit adjustment.
Yes, so this is our final group that we go through the process for salary adjustments and total package increases. So it's the recommendation that an average total package, which is the salary, the insurance adjustments, the IPERS and FICA cost, increase of a total package of 2.53%, which is right where we have with or been with the other groups that we've settled with for administrators, and that does exclude the superintendent as listed below, cabinet level administrators, principals, and associate principals. The recommendation is also, and this is per our auditor and the statewide Department of Education that have made this as a focus, that we recommend that the board grant the superintendent the authority to exercise the discretion in deciding the changes in salary for individual employees within each employee group, as long as the total cost of the district does not exceed their approved total package increase for the group as a whole. And again, as I said last time when we did this with supervisors, coordinators, bus drivers, and clerical staff, that typically the most common example of that is rounding. When you look at a 2.53 total package and somebody comes out at $207.16 increase, you round that up or down and to make sure that the total package increase is in the same sphere. And that was a focus of a statewide audit from a district a few years ago, and now the statewide auditors and the DE are saying this is a recommendation to make sure that that is clearly stated and part of the recommendation.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the administrative team salary and benefits adjustment?
I move that the Cedar Falls School District Board of Education approve the total package increase of 2.53% for the cabinet level administrators, principals, and associate principals, excluding the superintendent, for the 2019-2020 school year. The board further grants the superintendent the authority to use his or her independent discretion in allocating increases, if any, for the employee group, so long as the total cost to the district does not exceed the approved total package increase for the group as a whole. It is the board's understanding and the intent that this grant of authority and use of discretion by the superintendent may result in some employees receiving more or less than the total package.
Thank you, Sasha. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on again to item J on the agenda, approval of the board policies. This is the second of 2 readings.
Yes, so as we talked about before, there's no significant changes within these board policies. Per Iowa Code, we review all of our policies at least once every 5 years. We have that on a cycle. So this year was the 800, 900, and 1,000 series policies. There were some additional policies, as you can see within the agenda and within the packet, that we did change per our either ISAB recommendations or attorney recommendations. So those have been adjusted to meet the new code requirements or changes in practice that have occurred across the state. Otherwise, again, they're not significant changes. They're more aligning of practice, aligning of titles, aligning of what the roles and responsibilities are within those 800, 900, and 1,000 series policies.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the policies?
I move that the Cedar Falls Community School District Board of Education approve the second of 2 readings of Board Policy Series 800, 900, and 1,000 as presented.
Thank you, Jenny. Do I have a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded by Susie. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Are we to item K already? All right, the superintendent's report. Dr. Patty.
The only item that I have is the board calendar. I put at each person's table just a copy of the, obviously, dates for the Board of Education meetings, but then we will start adding in some of the informational reports as well as some of the other aspects within the different meeting dates. Wanted everybody to be able to see that, to have those dates as well as any feedback or thoughts on potential informational reports. We'll meet as cabinet to be able to look at our cycle and who we have usually come up as presentation topics or those that haven't been to the board for a while, but just wanted to make sure everybody had that information in front of them. Obviously, our next board meeting is August 12th, so we only have one in July.
Okay, any questions about the board calendar?
And just double checking, we only have one board meeting in August.
We do, yes. For several years, we had the second one listed as needed, but we never met, just due to the fact of the timing, and that's typically the first day of school. So, yes, we've just gone to one date in August.
Sounds good.
Couple dates to keep in mind when you're looking at this. November 20th and 21st is the Iowa School Board Association Convention. As a board, we've all attended, so make sure that you have that on your calendar. The other thing is on January 8th is the Board Administrative Retreat. Usually that's a morning, and add that to your calendar. Also toward the end, on June 10th, which is a Wednesday, is the Board Administrators Retreat, and that will be again usually in a morning time. So if you can add those dates to your calendar, sometimes that June date moves a little bit depending on what's going on in the district, but or snow, but those should be pretty accurate as you add those to your calendar. Andy, update on facilities then?
Really, I put this down just again to thank our community, thank our board, thank all of our the individuals that really worked to help the election results that turned out this last 2 weeks, and certainly it's very exciting not only for us as a district, but I think for our community as a whole, just because of the growth and what this means as we look to the future. So very exciting. We do have some committees still in action that will pull back together with some board members to be able to help with design development and start doing that with staff members and community members, and we know that that's going to be a lengthy process, but certainly going to be an exciting process to be able to go through and look at options and opportunities.
Thank you. Questions or comments or concerns from board members?
I just think it would be important to thank you, Andy, for all of the work that you did going out into the community and making sure that people had accurate information about the process and what we're doing. I think that show by the whole board and by you and Janelle and other folks throughout the district to really go out there and spread the word and be available to answer questions and give tours. That was huge. It helped people really see and understand the importance, which was evidenced by the election results. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think the other thing that will be important is for us to continue that communication. So if we can continue that communication to share where we are within the process, I think that will be very helpful, because I am sure there will be people that are so excited about it that they will expect to see bricks and mortar there next week.
Yes.
And so we know, just like building a house, that it takes a little bit time to plan, but building a high school is so much bigger, and we want to make sure that we do it right so it will last for the next 70 to 80 years within our district, and that it will suit the needs for our upcoming students as they move through our district. So we are very fortunate, and I think I say this to board members. So we may not always agree at the table, but we all know once the decision is made that we walk together and support whatever that decision is at this board table. And that's the way I feel about it with the community. The community stood up and supported us, and we should celebrate that. The other fact is that there are people in the community that still have some concerns and some angst. But if they have questions, we want to make sure that we answer those questions, and they're not afraid to call us and communicate with us, even though we had a successful referendum. We still want to be open and transparent as we move through this process, so thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? All right, moving into item M on the agenda, do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that the Cedar Falls Board of Education enter into closed session to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual's requests a closed session 2011 Code of Iowa 21.5 1I.
Thank you, Sasha. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Jenny. This will be a roll call vote.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Mr. Hassman?
Yes.
Mr. Heiserkamp?
Yes.
Ms. Hines?
Yes?
Sleeper?
Yes.
Ms. Walpert?
Yes.
All right, we will move into closed session. This meeting let me explain this. We're going to move into closed session. There won't be any action that will be taken. We'll come back out of closed session, and we'll go into another closed session. And again, no action we'll come back out, and no action will be taken, and we'll adjourn the meeting. So just to make that clear. All right.